Good afternoon all, welcome to Core Foundations Personal Training and Corrective Health Centre in the Beaumaris Concourse and episode 2 of our new segment Where Movement Matters. Last week we talked about in segment 1 the importance of training in multiple planes of motion. Today I thought we'd start to break them down and I'll touch on one of those planes of motion, which is the transverse plane or your rotational plane of motion. To understand the transverse plane is very important, understanding how it works. Put simply, to rotate, or what we would call thoracic rotation to the left or to the right, has to consist with several systems and muscles working together. So if I'm going to rotate thoracically to the left, my right side external obliques and my left side internal obliques work, and then conversely the same on the other side. Also the multifidi at the back, which is sort of spinal stabilizer, they also come into play as well. So pretty important part of your body because they sort of encapsulate around your spine. Understanding that the transverse plane is where power lives in the body. Make no mistake, if you do not own the transverse plane, you're simply playing for second best, and who wants that, okay? We tend to get bogged down in that sagittal plane, like I touched on last week, which is squat, press, lunge, deadlift, swim, walk, sit. But when it comes to rotation, even though it's where the power lives, if you don't own the rotation and know how to control the rotation, it's also where the injuries lie or live, okay? So today we're going to talk about the key muscles and I show you a really key exercise in order to be able to test are you dysfunctional or weak during throughout the transverse plane, and how to maybe add some sort of exercises in to be able to test that and also to improve that. So like I said, we want to be able to control that force before we just start exercising into rotation, because again, we don't want to hurt people. Today after this you'll see the exercise we're going to talk about, which is the tall kneeling power press. So please tune in for that and have a go at it and add it into your training. I think you'll be quite interested to see how challenging it is, but also how good it is for increasing the function through there. The obliques, the multifidus, particularly the obliques, when you're looking at this rotational plane of motion and trying to transmit force, you've got ground force, rotational force coming at you. It works as a part of what we call the anterior oblique sling. So the obliques sit in there, so you've got your pec, across your shoulder, through your tummy, into your groin or your adductors on both sides. So we've got a right side and the left side anterior oblique sling. They sort of function as a group, okay? So what tends to happen is if we don't own the obliques and we're not strong enough, we tend to get overactive pecs, and really the adductor is the one that compensates a lot because it has to overdo its job in order to try and keep us safe and stable, so it can get very stiff and grumpy and lead to injuries and things like your hip and your back and your knee and stuff like that. So we want to be able to make sure that anterior oblique sling is strong. Being able to use exercises like tall kneeling power press are a great way to add in some phenomenal conditioning and resistance and stability into that external and internal oblique. So watch out for the exercise after this, add it into your training, give us any feedback or ask any questions you'd like to know about it, but you can't do too much of it. Understand that the linchpin from the upper body to the lower body on both sides is being able to rotate and create and transmit force. And what's in through there? Your tummy muscles and particularly your obliques, which are your chief rotators. So everybody, get training in the transverse plane. Thanks for watching Where Movement Matters, and we'll come at you next week and we'll be talking about the frontal plane in episode 3. Take care. So for the tall kneeling power press, all you need is something to anchor some straps to or some therabands. You need to come to a tension that is reasonable. However, if you have to hold your breath or it's too hard, maybe back it back a little bit. So the further forward, the harder it is, the further back, the easier it is. You want to set up with nice wide knees outside of hip width. Flex your feet into the floor so that you access what we call dorsiflexion. So otherwise, if your feet stay flat, there's a tendency to curl your toes and to access the calf muscles. Calves are usually a very big way of compensating for a lack of integrity through the core. So have your feet dorsiflexed, toes into the ground, knees wide. Band should be around about shoulder height or thereabouts, just under. And I'm going to start doing my right side or right arm first. So elbows sort of by my side. This can be here, here, here. I like having it out of the way, or even here so I can feel what's going on through the trunk. All we want to do is just a nice slow and controlled press. Hold for 4 seconds. 4, and slowly back in. I want you to squeeze your glutes. You should be able to breathe nice and controlled into the diaphragm. So at the moment, look at feeling my right side obliques working really hard in through here to stabilize from going into rotation. So again, probably look at around 8 to 10 repetitions, possibly 2 to 3 times through. This is a great way you can add it into any routine, any training session. You can't do too many of these, I wouldn't have thought. Once you've finished doing your set here, simply slide the mat over, bring it to the other side, and let's check for those left and right side differences. So same thing, wide knees, feet into the ground, arm behind, out of the way, slowly pressing forward, holding for 4, breathing, holding for 4, remember, you've got to make sure you're breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, should be no breath holding. And just again, feel for those left and right differences. In the coming weeks, we'll show you how to reset these if there is a weakness in the area. However, I would add an additional set. If you're doing 2 sets on both sides, add a 3rd set, 8 to 10, to that weaker side. You want to make sure that catches up and becomes as even as possible. That's your tall kneeling power press.